Amen. I bring you God's word this morning in the name of God the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Please be seated. It is my joy and honor this morning to again stand before you, not because I deserve, but because of the calling that God has called me to preach in season and out of season. We don't preach because we are comfortable preaching. There are many times we want to run away from the responsibility of preaching. But as Paul would tell Timothy, preach the gospel during good times and bad times. And so when God puts a word in us, we preach. Now, whenever the church speaks, the kind of advice we are given is, could you preach peace and unity? That is a soft way of telling the church, be quiet, or just preach that people may just be peaceful and have unity. But let me tell you this morning. The gospel of Jesus Christ is not neutral. It challenges our sins. It challenges the ills of our society. And there is no day when Jesus was neutral in his gospel. And so to tell us just to preach peace and unity, it can't happen until our own sinfulness, our own ills of the society are challenged by the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so don't advise us to just preach peace and unity. We know what the gospel says, and we will preach the entire gospel. And me as the provost here, for the time I'll be here, I'll speak the truth of the word of God, regardless of who, because it's not my gospel. It is the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it must percolate and challenge every sector of our society. I don't support any political position. I am here to speak to the nation. Now, last Sunday, we talked about the integrity of a leader. And we looked at a leader not just as a political leader, but we looked at leadership from me, from you. It begins with me. And we should never be surprised by the kind of politicians we have, because we produce them ourselves. They are products of the society. It begins with you, then it ends at the top. We said integrity refers to three things. Now, number one, the unimpaired and weakened and damaged condition. The second idea of integrity is a firm adherence to a moral code. Strong, strict adherence to moral code. And thirdly, the quality or state of being complete or undivided, what the Bible calls wholeheartedness. So integrity also means being the same inside out, and there is no double standards of justifications. The same person we see at home should be the same person seen at the place of work, should be the same person anywhere. They are not two people. And when we dichotomize our lives as believers, then we shame our Savior. So leadership really comes down to three vital components: who you are, how you think, and what you value. And I'll be talking more today about value. So our take-homes were three. Number one, that leaders of integrity are different. And that is the first quality that attracted God to Caleb. The second one was leaders of integrity are loyal. And in describing who Caleb was, God says, my servant Caleb is different from others. Why? Because he was loyal to God. Some of us, we are more loyal to our tribes, to our families than we are loyal to God. Our loyalty, first and foremost, should be to God before it goes anywhere else. That was Caleb. The third point that was important is that leaders of integrity finish well. Instead of fading away, Caleb's life was an example of how leaders must end their race. Paul says that a race is marked for us. He says in Philippians chapter 3, we should press on towards the mark. But Caleb gives another beautiful picture when he says that every leader should finish strong with dignity, integrity, honor, and respect. And that is my desire. Is that your desire? Finish well. Now, by now we know that by the time we meet Caleb in chapter 14 of Joshua, the people of Israel are encamped at Kadesh Barnea. It is an oasis in the Negev desert, which is south of the promised land. It has been only a couple of years since they came out of the wilderness. The people have seen great miracles, such as the splitting of the sea. They have seen rocks producing water. They have seen manna come down. They have walked with the Lord in the wilderness, and they have seen the Lord's faithfulness. And Moses builds the first covenant between God and the people. So the time when he's sent to spy the land, he's about 45 years. And Moses sends them with clear message of what they need to do to go and explore the land. Two things you notice from chapter 14 of Joshua. Number one is about the bad report. Bad reports of the 10 spies. Bad reports are always contagious. By nightfall, their negative assessment of the danger has spread throughout the camp, and with it brought infections of fear on these tribal leaders. Go read chapter 14 of Numbers, and you'll see what happened that night. Men and women were crying, and especially women, because they knew they would be widowed, and their children would die because the men would die as they go to the land of Canaan. But in the middle of the fear, in the middle of a situation that is difficult, the report has become contagious and everybody is in fear. Two men rise up. And I like the Caleb one, which is a story of courage. Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, we should go up and take possession of this land, for we are certainly able to do it. So the next day, they are trying to mobilize everybody to be positive about it. So the first report is a negative one, which is contagious. The second one is, notice the positive attitude in the two men. You know what? And I said this during my first sermons. You don't need to be popular. Democracy teaches us that majority are right. It's not true. For Caleb, he was actually a minority. He was a lone voice. And if you've been waiting for people to rise up for you to speak, please speak. Currently, the church is silent about what is happening in this country. Let me tell you, even if I'm the lone voice, I'll speak. I'll tell the leaders to behave and not to destroy this nation. And this one I draw from Caleb, who stands when everybody is conforming. He chooses to be different. And he says that let us go. The positive attitude is one good character of anyone here if you want to stand strong wherever you are and where corruption is. Let me define for you leadership. And I have read many books on leadership because it's something I practice. There's a man by the name Riya Gupta. It's an Indian difficult name. But you can get the book online, and it is called Leadership. It is your DNA. And I like his definition. It's not common definition of leadership. He says that leadership is first an attitude and a belief, followed by the ability of one person to stand up and take ownership in walking taller and stronger on a new path or an improved current path. End of quote. He further argues that we all have the DNA of leadership. DNA is both unique, but it can also be replicated in others without losing the original. We all have leadership potential. He observes that the world does not suffer from lack of leaders. It suffers from the lack of leadership. Moses sent 12 representatives of the tribe of Israel. It is only 2 who had the leadership. Why? The Bible describes them as men of conviction. Please be a man or a woman of conviction. Don't be swayed from the east to the west. Be somebody who has principles and convictions. And so we don't lack leaders. We actually lack leadership. When you look at the state of our nation in Kenya today, it is not that Kenya doesn't have leaders. It has, but it lacks leadership. And so just to tell us you're a leader doesn't make you a leader. It is the leadership that makes you a leader and the convictions that you stand for. The Bible says that Caleb followed the Lord wholeheartedly. And I looked at what other biblical versions say about this word, wholehearted. The NRSV uses the word complete fidelity. That is beautiful. So Caleb, the man we are talking about, is the man with a complete fidelity. And then the ESV and King James Version talks about holy. In other words, total. What a testimony. So often we follow the Lord mostly, or when it suits us. When it is comfortable, we follow the Lord. But when things get tough, we must lean on faith rather than on sight. We balk. Fear sets in, and we follow our fears instead of our faith. Caleb was what Dr. Robert Schuller, if you love reading or listening to Robert Schuller, he's the kind of person that Schuller calls a possibility thinker. One who sees himself walking into the future, not alone, but leaning on the strong arms of God. Friends, are you following God fully right now? Are you fully obedient to Him? If not, what is it that in your life needs to change so that you can align yourself to the obedience of God? We all have, in our own way, the conviction of leadership within us. We need to maintain the conviction. So having the conviction is one thing. Maintaining the conviction of a believer is another. In Gaelic proverb, it says, some people make things happen. Some watch things happen, while others wonder what happened. Let me ask you, are you the kind of person who makes things happen? Or are you the kind of person who watch things happen? Or you are the kind of people who wonder what happened? Caleb was a man who made things happen. And that is the calling for every believer. Let me conclude by dealing with 3 areas on the demand of leadership, which is our focus today. Leadership is never easy. Leadership is a burden we carry. And what are those demands for leadership? In my study, I found many, but I just picked 3 so that we can remember. The first one is visionary decisions. Visionary decisions. Visions have consequences. To pursue and achieve a vision, you may have to suffer for it. You don't accept a vision casually. Tough challenges lie ahead of you. John Edmund Haggai, one of the greatest leaders of our time, he recently died, God rest his soul in eternal peace, who is behind the Haggai School in Hawaii or in Maui. I went there, I think, 2019 for a whole month of study. Edmund Haggai says that no vision comes free. When God puts a vision on you, please know you are in trouble, because it will eat you, it will disturb you. Then somebody has said that successful leaders are able to look out across and beyond the organization. They have a talent of seeing and creating the future. They use highly visual language that paints pictures of the future for those they lead. As a result, they seem to attain bigger goals because they create a collegial mindset that propels people to help them make their vision a reality. Leaders take the vision from me to the we. It starts with the me, then it goes to the we. It becomes a vision of the team, and you're able to propel a church, an organization, and a country. But let me give you the second demand of leadership. Is what I call the risk of failure. I have said before that courage is not the absence of fear. People you see very courageous are very fearful. I normally tell people that I'm a very fearful person, and many times I have this man in me called Jonah who wants to run away to Nineveh, to run away from going to Nineveh. I go through that. But there's something that courageous people have. They have fears, and they surrender their fears to God. Every leader must go through challenging experience. So when you run from the challenge before you, leaders rise to the challenges before them. So while people will run away, leaders do the opposite, and they actually face the challenge before them. Before I quote an English historian, let me tell you, when we started this project here, and it was 1 billion shillings, at the beginning, I thought, as a leader, that it will be 500 million, and so I'll be able to raise money a little quicker, and we had some little money in the money market, and we knew we would start. When the drawing happened, I brought it to the congregation. The congregation said, no, give us parking underneath. That meant us cutting the rock, and it went to 1 billion shillings. Do you know what was in us as leadership? Fear. And I remember one of the parish council, we were all divided, and we talked for an entire hour. And then after they spoke, I told them, guys, can I say something? There are people who are standing for faith. Faith without works is dead. Go sell this vision. Go raise enough funds. We will do it for our children. Then those who were talking about we must have money first before we start building, I told them you need a spark of faith in you. God's work is not done when we put all the resources there. God's work is also done by faith but faith that is in action. Now, the demand on this project, what did we carry as leaders? The risk of failure. When you start something, you carry with you what? A risk of failure. My wife tells me, whenever we do rounds in our neighborhood, whenever you see a house that is incomplete, there is a story behind a story. When you begin to build even your own house, you carry with yourself a tag of the risk of failing. But one English historian by the name Arnold Toynbee has said, appropriate response to challenge is the basis for the rise of any society. In other words, a society develops because of their ability to face any challenge before them. Without challenge, we cannot be conquerors. Challenges give us the DNA of being conquerors. Let me tell you the third and the last, is what I call maximizing values. Let me encourage all of us to develop value systems around them. Kenya is a great nation, but it's a nation without values. That's where our problem is. We need to develop principles from principles to eternal values. And this is what leads to transformational leadership rather than transactional leadership. And we should create a value-laden cultures at home, in school, and in our curriculums. I saw something online, a story of a couple who are called by the principal to go to school. I don't know whether you have ever been told, I want to see you. The principal has called. And so they went there, the two of them, and they were told, your son has the habit of picking pencils, biros, erasers, and all this from the other children. Why is that the case? And the father innocently said, how can Andrew do that? When I bring him all those things from the office, he has more than enough. And the principal said, now I know where the problem is. Kenya, we are going to destroy this nation because we lack values. Now, a principle is an external truth that is reliable as a physical law, such as the law of gravity. When Solomon said, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger, what he did, he only stated a principle that is both universal and timeless. Principles are important because they function like a map, allowing us to make wise decisions. But let me tell you, we must move from principles to internalize them now. They become what? Value-laden in our society. It must be internalized. You transition a principle into a value. It is better, and anybody will follow that value because it is internal. Caleb had a value system. He was a man of conviction, consistent, wholehearted, and people-centered. What we lack in Kenya are not principles. We lack values. We believe in hard work that brings wealth, isn't it? That is a principle that is universal, but it's also timeless. We all believe that when you work hard, and Kenyans know how to work hard. However, we have never internalized that principle to help us now move it into a value. That is a principle, and it applies everywhere. However, we as Kenyans have become a nation of thieves. A nation of thieves minus opportunities. All of us are busy looking for opportunity to make wealth. It is even sadder when Christians call such things as blessings or breakthroughs. Haven't you heard them say, I got a breakthrough, and it's corruption? Can I tell you this? When you go there and become corrupt, even if you brought all the money, not just tithe, and brought it to the altar here, God cannot be bribed by you. You will not get the blessing. God blesses what He has given us through good and hard work. Those tenders you do there, and you corrupt your way by bribing, don't bring blessings on you. You will see the effect of those things even on your children. No wonder the president the other day confessed that 2 billion shillings are lost every day. Now, you know, Mr. President is not just a simple guy. When a whole president confesses that 2 billion shillings are lost, believe it, it's true. Mr. President, thank you for the confession that we are all thieves minus opportunities. But what does that tell you? Mr. President, you have the EACC, you have the DPP, you have the NIS, you have every government machinery at your disposal. Either the government knows who steals the Kenyan money, or the government is part of the stealing. What are you telling Kenyans when you confess such? That you are defeated? Who will save then this country if the president cannot save us? We have become a nation of thieves. Up to now, KEMSA report is not out, even after the president gave the ultimatum. Either the government then knows the thief, or they are part of the scheme. No wonder. Nowadays, everybody wants to be a politician. Why? The moment they are elected, the first thing they ask, what is there for me? If that is the way you go asking for employment as believers, and the first thing you ask is how you can steal, there are no blessings on us as Kenyans. And these are some of the things that are fueling the hustler dynasty narrative. We have money for BBI, which will only benefit only a few people at the top, the kingpins. BBI will not solve your problems. They only want to benefit at the top so that they can share. We can have money for BBI, but we have no money to build schools that our children learn under the trees. Then the CS talks about it is good for oxygen. We don't lack oxygen even in classes. Our counties cannot receive 15% of the allocation, which is constitutional. Then you want to argue to me that the BBI comes and solves all your problems and gives you 35. If you can't give 15, how do you give 35? Why the lie? Let me remind Kenyans that when your tribal man becomes the president or takes the 5 top seats, as per the proposal of the BBI, you will remain poor. Ask those people, those tribes that have produced presidents, have they benefited from it? No, they are even poorer. Politicians have their agenda to eat and loot this country. What we need, we as Kenyans, are opportunities for employment, roads, networks, markets for our produce, quality health care, and quality education for every Kenyan. Let me conclude by saying this, that if you as a nation, if you are a Christian nation, then our values should be led by the scripture. In conclusion, it is sad that most leaders are motivated by power, influence, and money. It is even grievous when this happens in churches. The church then loses her moral authority to challenge corruption and sin. Churches have opened their podiums to politicians to attack their opponents. Reggae must stop in churches. And I want to tell politicians, in this cathedral, this podium will never be used by you. Let me tell Christian leaders, close your churches to politicians. You are going to destroy this country. And remember, whoever pays the piper calls the tune. God bless you. Have a good week.